Well, Zania, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the time to share your perspective on small business financial intelligence and how you and your company have benefited from my services. And I thought it would be insightful to others to have you, talk a little bit about some of the things that you got from the process, some of the things that you got from the tool itself, and some of the ways in which you've used the tool. So to get to some of that, I've got a series of questions. Tell me a little bit about ACMN, what it is and what it does.
Absolutely. So I'm the owner and CEO of Affinity Care. The trade name is really Affinity Residential Care, but we call ourselves Affinity Care Minnesota because we are no longer just residential care. We provide home and community-based services, which are residential assisted living settings, independent living apartments, and we also do behavioral care and homelessness prevention services.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah. We serve about 144 people a day, and right now we have around 105 employees. Well, we have a little over 100 employees.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Over 13 sites.
Wow.
Or over 13 independent settings and 5 residential sites. So.
Okay. Okay. All right. Lots of moving parts there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the broader question, I mean, for the benefit of our viewing audience, I'll have you describe a little bit about what initially prompted you to seek financial modeling services.
Yeah.
Share with me and the audience the need that you saw or the benefit that you thought you could garner.
So we were going into different service models, but we're also expanding really quickly. And I quickly realized that we did not have the insight into our financials. We didn't have the insight into what could be possible in terms of our financials. And so I really needed insight and really just guidance in terms of, okay, if I'm going to grow this company or if I'm going to stabilize this company, how do I do that? What does that look like? And what levers need to be, changed or tweaked to get to the goal net profit that I want and also the goal revenue and those types of things that I had absolutely no insight into prior to. Okay.
So you had a business that was running, it was running fairly well, you were in growth mode, but you couldn't quite get a handle on exactly where the numbers were in that growth.
Right.
And so you needed some insights into that.
Yeah, I lacked visibility into, I just lacked the general visibility on, and honestly clarity around what was actually happening and what I needed to do to take the business to the next level.
Right. Okay. All right. And so then when you engaged with SBFI, how would you describe your overall experience in kind of what you went through with arriving at receiving a decision tool? How would you describe it?
So to give context, as just coming into the decision of needing a decision tool, at that moment the business was growing still very quickly, and we were adding lots of employees, and it was a very complex. Honestly, this is probably one of the a really complex one that you've probably seen, and you were able to unravel.
It was
able to really we have so many different cost centers, departments, employees, different rates, different models. So it was almost like a very complex model that needed to be built. And every time you asked a question, it was like there were more questions because it was really complicated. And it didn't have to be if we probably would have started this process a long time ago. And so I realized in that moment, just going through the process of creating this decision tool, how much I didn't know. And, it's almost like a coaching opportunity as well. As there's making the decision tool as you go, but then there's almost a component of coaching you through your own financial position during that process. So you get a lot of understanding of what's actually going on in the business, and do things even make sense how you're doing them right now? that was a part of it too. Right, like, does this really make sense to you? Or and even seeing some waste through the process as well. Just picking, just even just the waste that we caught even going through the process. Just it was
so if I understand what you're saying, it sounds as though the process itself was revelatory in many ways. In terms of understanding your financial realities, some shortcomings and some pitfalls, and indeed the evaluation of potential opportunities that existed. So the process itself and the detailed nature of it sounds like it really uncovered a lot of valuable information for decision making.
Right. You have a signature discovery process. Like, I've never gone through a process like that before, where it was so detailed and just working with someone that understands your business without even being in it. Just understanding, you have a unique skill set. Building the model was great, but the whole discovery process was just a coaching experience for me, and that was very helpful. And I felt like I got a lot of value from that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
It really just opened up my eyes to like a lot of the things that I didn't think about and a lot of the things I didn't know. I think as entrepreneurs, we really, we're in the daily grind. We're just trying to figure out the operations, moving things forward, the inventory, the staff, the employees. We don't take the time to actually think about the financial position. You need somebody in your corner to really put this together so you can have crystal clear visibility.
Let's move into the conversation of the model itself. So the discovery process takes you through a journey just that discovery, and it helps you understand the business better and the shortcomings, opportunities, pitfalls, etc. But once you have the model itself, first of all, I'd say, how well did the financial model produced by SBFI align with your business's operational mechanics?
Yeah, we have very complex operational mechanics, and I would say that the skill sets brought forward to put our financial model, our decision tool together, very closely aligned with what we needed.
And so did the insights gained from the financial model help you make better business decisions? And can you provide an example or two of what that looked like?
Yeah. So it really did help us make different business decisions. And I'll just start with the fact that because of the size of our business, we ended up needing to hire a full-time CFO. And so the best thing about the decision tool that was created is it really served as the baseline and the catalyst to all the rest of the decisions being made in the business. So, and I'll just give an example as to one thing that came up at the end of, kind of like almost to the end of the decision tool. So we are building out a very large community center in South Minneapolis. And kind of towards the process, I forgot to mention it, and it was like, wow, this is actually a big part of this, and I kind of didn't think about it as like, I'm like, oh yeah, it hasn't launched yet, no big deal, but it's like, no, this, and something that I didn't realize is this project is going to have an effect on the rest of the business's financials if certain parts of the project are not figured out yet, and once and you have to actually put into consideration the amount of time. What I saw there in the model is the amount of time you need to ramp up your sales, your services, and your income. And then now, once you start making that money, how does that affect the business overall?
Right.
And so that was an incredible. I think that was like that was a serious moment for me, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm used to just starting a thing and like
make it go.
Let's go. You know what I mean? And so when I brought that forward, it was kind of like, okay, I actually need to think about how this is going to work here. And then the revenue, how many months, like worst case scenario, that's what the decision tool really helped with is, okay, this is best case scenario and this is worst case scenario. What does worst case scenario look like if we're going to need to cover this from the core business for,
So the idea is that the model itself gave you the opportunity to model various scenarios, kind of stress test your business to see what's the greatest possible outcome, what's the worst possible outcome, what's the highest probability outcome, and what does that mean for the top and bottom line.
Right.
It sounds like the tool gave you the opportunity to have insights into those before those events even occurred.
Right.
And that sounds like something pretty powerful, because your decision making just changes with that gained financial intelligence.
Yeah. So with that, I was able to figure out how much money we were going to need to set aside. And we are still mid-construction with that project, and figure out how much I needed to set aside and how much now, just anticipating, you can put in, okay, I think we're going to have 5 people participating, and this is how much money is going to come in from that. And if we have this amount of staff, how's that going to affect the bottom line? Are we even going to make money in those first few months?
Right.
Or are we going to be in the negative? And how much do we need to account for? So
Right.
Those are the types of things that I needed to know going into essentially starting a new business. Almost.
Yeah, that's
that's
what it was.
But still incorporating it. The cool thing about it is it's a new business inside the business, and so you can also see how that new business, and if you were looking at it as like products, a new product line would be affecting the overall business for a certain amount of time.
Right. Nope. All right. Well, we'll continue on. So, now that you've had the opportunity to use the model for roughly 8-9 months at this point,
Yep.
how would you characterize the reliability and the capability of the model to accurately create projections, based on the assumptions that you've been able to manipulate? In other words, the integrity of the model to produce the information that you're looking for based on the assumptions that you put in. How do you find the model to operate in that way?
So the model was made to be modifiable. So you can, so essentially for us, we've been able to go in and change things. So just depending on who on your team you want to work with the model, it's really useful to have that happen. So it's been reliable for us because we've been able to put in different service lines, that didn't exist before. Or if you need someone like an expert to help with that, then you should have an expert do that. You should not, if you're just an entrepreneur out here, don't try to do your own model.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it. But yeah, we've been able to just change things in accordance to the growth of the business.
Okay.
So, hey, now we have more employees. We're going to plug these more employees in. We're changing the wages, for example. We're increasing wages. Hey, we want to give everybody a cost of living increase of this amount. How does that affect our bottom line for the end of the year? How does that affect everything else in the business? And by the type of employee. So obviously in our company, it's a little bit more complex. There's different levels of employees. And so if we're going to give this group of employees an increase in their wages, put that wage in, how does that affect the overall, taking it out and seeing the difference?
And so the flexibility to be able to know ahead of time what those prospective changes would be and how it impacts the top and bottom.
Yep.
It sounds like the model actually provides that.
Yes.
Okay.
The model does provide that perspective.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. It's working just as I had hoped. Okay, continuing on. Now we're going to talk about, we talked about the discovery process and we talked about the model itself. Now we're going to talk about the communication and support during the discovery process and after the model has been completed. How effective was FBFI's communication throughout the project?
Yeah. So the communication to me was actually quicker than me. I some of the time it was like, it's like, hey, this part is done and we're moving on. So just very efficient and effective communication, which is appreciated when you're a busy entrepreneur with so much going on. To just, have someone be on time with things, be accurate, punctual, that's just really a huge characteristic of this organization. So I think those standards are being upheld.
Okay.
They're
upheld. So when you had, questions or concerns, throughout the process, were they addressed in a timely and a prompt manner?
Yeah. So just giving the example of the additional business line that got thrown in kind of at the last minute, right? Like, jumped on that really quick and, got everything sorted out and made changes too. Like just being available to make changes maybe, a few months down the line when it's like, hey, this has changed. How do we fix this? It really helps to have that availability.
Okay. All right. And the next question has to do with your view on what could improve. What do you think could improve the discovery process and the decision tool delivery process and the overall experience that a client might have with small business financial intelligence? How can we improve?
That's a really hard question because I feel like the precision is so on point. That's a difficult question because seriously, because I think the real issue at hand is that most entrepreneurs don't even know why they need this. And so maybe there's a component, maybe there's something there where I don't know. But I just felt like when we got started with this, it was so evident immediately why this was important. And maybe some area for improvement is just, really pushing hard on the awareness of the importance of what we're doing. Because so many entrepreneurs don't place importance on just financial projections. We just go with what we feel or what we think, and you got to wrap it in. And you need somebody that's more analytical and process oriented to come in and kind of level
Right.
set.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so that's good to hear. Seems like I'm doing things okay. So hopefully I'll keep doing things okay. All right. So let's talk about, you've mentioned some already, but maybe just this section of the discussion has to do with, value and outcomes that you have been able to achieve through using the tool and the process. And so I know you've answered this already, but I'm just going to ask for another one. It says, what specific outcomes have you achieved since implementing the financial model and since the beginning the use of the financial model?
Specific outcomes. We've been able to really get a clear idea on how, especially when it comes to staff costs, and how that affects our business and the bottom line, really, and taxes and things like that, right? So there are there are all of those components in the model. So I think one of the most useful things I've been able to do is really sit down with my HR and say, hey, we're going to increase this group by this amount, and we know that we're anticipating an increase next year. So how does that play into this? And so that's a very specific example of really, having a model there to look at our employee costs, number of residents, or number of people served. And hey, if we increase the number of people served by this amount, if we can really get on the team and push forward and get more people into some of the get our occupancy up, then how does that impact the overall revenue?
Right. And so the model basically allows you that level of specificity to be able to look at any particular lever, be it occupancy, be it staffing, wage rates, being level of staffing. It allows you to literally pull that lever and see what it does before you actually implement that change.
Right. And
Okay. All right.
I guess I can add this too. There's value in not just the, looking at the value of growth and we're going to grow, but it also helps with disaster planning. Because you need to be prepared for, the worst case scenario.
Right.
So worst case scenario, something like COVID happens, right? Some type of once in a lifetime, pandemic, right? How many months can you go without payment to float that?
Right.
How much should you have in reserve?
Right.
That's really what the insight gives you.
Yeah.
Like, how much should you have in reserve to really float this business if such a disaster happens?
Right.
Or what does that look like? How many months can you float that?
Right. And the model tells you
the
all
model
of that.
tells you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so, would you say that our services provided a good return on investment? And why or why not?
I think that's a no-brainer. I think honestly, this is something that is priceless, really, like for your business. The insight that you gain, not gaining this insight could cost you so much more. I think every single business should have one. I think, if businesses are running, what are you running on? Where are you getting your information from?
Right.
You need something like this.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. And final thoughts. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with SBFI? And would you be willing to recommend SBFI to other businesses?
I would say to other businesses, if you don't have a financial decision tool, you are running your business blind. You're running your business without visibility into the future and just looking into the possibilities. So, entrepreneurs need to invest more into financial decision making because it typically comes last. Your accountant, you're probably paying an accountant once a year or once a quarter or something. You're not getting your numbers. Even you should be looking at your numbers weekly. So it's some of that financial insight and best practice. So as you go through the financial model process of building it, you will inadvertently become more knowledgeable about just business in general, finances in general, and you'll know what questions to ask. Now, if you're working with someone else, if you're working with an accountant now, or you're working with bookkeeper, you'll be more versed in what questions should you even ask that person. Right. To make sure that they know what they're doing.
Right.
Right. So you just come out more knowledgeable and you're just way more knowledgeable and more informed, really.
Okay. All right. And so the final question is, based on what you know now about the benefits and the gained financial intelligence, having gone through the discovery process and used the decision tool, would you have paid more for it than you did?
I mean, to me, it wasn't even an expense. It was really, I mean, if you look, I would have paid way more for that because, not doing this cost you more. I kind of said that earlier. Like, not having this information can cost you more money than doing it, than having this information.
Right.
And on an ongoing basis, too. Like, if you don't have that insight and visibility, you're not even running a business, really. Like, you're working a job.
There's a very big difference between the two.
There's a big difference between running a business with with goals, and through this process you're able to really start aligning some of your key performance indicators, right? Your KPIs and your goals, OKRs or whatever. but you're able to put those performance indicators in place, and they can pop out at you and say, hey, things are not on track here.
Right. You can
or if
measure
you
them.
do this, if you do this, if you change this, if you if you let go of this employee, this is what this looks like. Or if you add 2 more employees, this is what this looks like. So I would say that the decision tool, having a decision tool, is an invaluable experience. Like, it is really, it really opened my eyes to what else, right? Like, okay, what if I need to get a loan to do this? How does that affect what we're doing? And it's a good thing for the banks to see too. So when you're looking to go get when you're looking to get financing, when you're looking to go to a lender, you can show them, hey, you can bet on me. I can bet on this because this is how this is going to work. So the bank can see that. And actually, I've shown my banker, my main lender that I use, I've shown him what things are going to look like. If we, increase revenue, if rates go up at this certain site, how does that affect, and what will my financials look like for the rest of the year? And this is why you should give me money to start this new one.
Right.
This is why you should give me money to go in and do this, because I have the insight and I know it's going to be profitable.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's really the value.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.